Hi, welcome back to No More Trapping But Trapping with God. It's your host, Diane Williams. So today I want to read chapter 7 of the book of Isaiah. It's not actually the Bible, but it came from out of the Bible to break it down to make individuals understand it more. And it talks about Israel's first king. Okay, it says, there was a man named Samuel who God made into a prophet. A prophet is a person who God tells things to, and that person tells the people what God said. One day the Israelites were at war with the Philistines. The Philistines defeated the Israelites. When they did, they took the Ark of the Covenant, the fancy box that held the 2 tablets with the 10 commandments on them. The Philistines took the ark and put it in the temple of their false god. So they're going to take the ark of God and put it in the temple with them and then put up their false god and praise that. But that wasn't going to work. So the next big statue was Dagon. When the Philistine woke up the next day, they found that the statue of Dagon knocked down on his face before the ark. They put the Dagon statue back up, but the next day they found it on the ground again before the ark with his head and his hands cut off. Okay, so God, he did this to show them that he is the only true God. Yeah, he is the only true God. So any other false gods that you're praising to, whatever, that's not real. That's not true. Only real God is here, the one that made this world and put us on this earth in his image, which a lot of us don't practice that. That was me too. I was walking around with my head cut off, following the world. So the Philistines who lived near were they storing the ark and broke out the tumors. The Philistines moved the ark to the city of Gath. The people there too broke out in tumors, and they panicked. Then they moved it to the city of Ekron, and the same thing happened there. The Philistines decided not to harden their hearts against God of Israel, like the Egyptians did when they struck the plague from God. So, basically saying, they moved this thing everywhere, and trying to praise it, but God wasn't going for that. So they gave up. So they started, praising God. Okay. Then they realized that God of the Israel should not be messed with. Yeah, you can't play with God. Let me tell you that right now. Play with him if you want to. You will see the outcome. Okay. So they sent the ark back to the Israelites. They filled it with gold as an apology for taking it from the Israelites. At the same time, there was still judges over Israel like Gideon and Samson. God made Samuel the prophet and then his own son as judge over Israel. Samuel's sons were not honest as judges, and the Israelites became upset over this. The Israelites came to Samuel and said, instead of judges, give us a king to rule over us. This was against what God wanted, but God wanted to be the only king over Israel. However, he told Samuel that if they wanted a king, they could have a king. He wanted them, though, that they would have problems with a king. The Israelites told God and Samuel that they wanted a king anyway, so they could be like the other countries that had kings. God allowed what the Israelites wanted. God give you what you want as long as you're doing right by him, And then a lot of things we want in our eyes, and we don't see nothing wrong with it, but he sees something wrong with it. So if we don't get what we want, we know it's a good thing. Just know it was because God, it wasn't right for us. He the one that judges over each and everything we do. Okay. So the Israelites told God and Samuel that they wanted a king anyway. So they could be like the other countries and have a king. God allowed what the Israelites wanted. God told Samuel to anoint a man named Saul to be the king. Saul was a very tall, handsome man. When Saul became king of Israel, Israel was at war with the Philistines. Saul wanted to get a blessing from God in his fight with the Philistines. The prophet Samuel was supposed to give the blessing to King Saul. King Saul was impatient. he took matters into his own hand, and he broke some of the commandments of the instruction God gave him in the doing of Samuel. Samuel told King Saul that because of this, God would remove him from being king. He would anoint another man as king, one who was after God's own heart, So you can't try to, play God. When God tells you to do something, you do it his way. Don't do it your way, because it ain't going to work. Even after the king Saul would often not listen to what God wanted him to do, God regretted that he made Saul the king of Israel because he was very disobedient to God. Once again, God had a prophet Samuel tell King Saul that God would replace him with a better king, one who would always do what God told him to do. This greatly upset King Saul. The prophet Samuel was sad that God rejected Saul as king. God told Samuel that he should not be upset. He sent Samuel to a man named Jesse, who lived in Bethlehem. God would not make one of Jesse's sons the new king over Israel. Jesse had many strong, handsome sons. Samuel thought one of these would be chosen as king, but God told Samuel that he did not judge people by their appearance. Instead, he judged people by their heart. God knows if people are good or bad. Yeah, so you can be fine and handsome man or a beautiful woman. He go by what's in your heart. And that's all I have today, guys. For no more trapping, but trapping with God. And you guys have a blessed day.